Seeing as the last video did so well, where I was basically making a guide of how we do our speeds, I'm going to do it again, but with a very, very, very unconventional speed, and one which I've been laughed at for even attempting. The trio hard mode top rec that we got today on stream, twitch.tv/s2l_OSRS, by the way. Anyway, so going into Maiden, the aim here is we do one hammer and the mage double ralluses. If every hit spec hits, it'll be 0 defense. If they don't, I'm backing up with the BGS, which is why I'm going to take ahead, having entered with a bow. But it's 0 defense, so I'll lose that tick, so I'm on the same tick as Dwayne. And so I'm basically the same as Horse. Here, I'm going to claw the N1, and then we're going to scythe the N2 together. The idea is that we don't want to get blooded as much as possible. I gain my death charge, which means I have a ZCB for skip. Dwayne trolls me with the blood, which is lovely as always. Just flicking the ZCB, trying not to get drained, because we basically have one full super combat between us, which we can use. And some drains are unavoidable in hard mode, because when 2 crabs go in, her attacks increase. Here, I'm on a bit on life support, so I put the Blood Fury on. Chance to death there. Survived, thankfully. You can't really heal other that early on, and it's just bad RNG if you get hit hard, which we have done. So here, I'm just hitting the crabs, making sure they're low enough. And then I'm going to go back on Maiden here, and then Dwayne's going to heal me before he takes ramp damage. Here, we're just taking Vengeance again, ready to proc the crabs. Horse was on the wrong tick here, so we didn't realise, but we only get to swing 1, which usually means it's a run ender, if we can't swing 2 as well. You can see us panic and lose a couple of ticks. Followed by my ZCB, which I death charge for earlier. Now we're just cleaning up Maiden, hoping that crab leak doesn't make a difference. And thankfully we swing hard enough that it doesn't. Spoiler alert. Anyway, just healing other Horse, because he's going to take all the rest of the damage. He can venge himself because he spellbook swap freezing. Anyway, here we go on to bloat. So for bloat, we just need a 2 down. We're just looking for any 2 down at all. We have extra P-Nex, because the 2 down in trio hard mode top is very much not guaranteed. The damage is pretty inconsistent, especially because we're not BGSing. So here, me and Dwayne go on either side, and Horse is going to windmill later on. I accidentally troll a fly there, just from a misclick. But you'll see me go in here. It's around 18 seconds I need to go in. It's basically when he gets to certain tiles. Making sure I hit with Salvon is very important. And now I'm just working out what tick I'm on. Once I do that, I tick fix to get myself onto the last available tick. Which is why I claw scratch there. And you can see the hands were so toxic, but thankfully it was on the tick before we had to move. Bloat with the insta-turn, the game really wanted us to die. This is where Horse is going to windmill. Instead of using my last 2 necks, I'm going to keep them for soap, because we managed to get Bloat down low enough that we know it's a guaranteed 2 down. And it's more value to have an extra neck at soap, just in case things go wrong, than it is to do this at Bloat, to hit twice more at Bloat, especially when he's this weak. He's going to go down around here. A bit of a late down, unfortunately, on the second one. Anyway, just looking to do around 3 scythes and a chally, playing it by ear. I didn't realise that these guys had claws left, so I probably should have challied there, which I didn't, and so I lose a couple of ticks and chally there, but it made no difference in the grand scheme of things. Picking up my necks now and going into Nilo. So for Nilo, I only have a 2-dose prayer pot to play around with, so I'm going to do a lot of it without prayer on, because obviously prayer flicking and hitting your Nilo rotation is pretty difficult. So for a lot of it, I'm just going to be unpotted at the early waves, where it doesn't matter so much. Again, as I said in the other video the other day, the Nilo cap is very different in hard mode. In hard mode, you can very much get away with popping bigs early and doing trolley type stuff, which we do get away with here. It was quite a clean Nilo from us, I must say. Anyway, just doing my rotation, waiting for the demi. I'm the first demi. I've got chins to hit, so we're just going to clean up the splits here. Chin twice, and then check east to see if the big's died, which it has. Go for a scythe on the demi, but I misclicked my switch. Didn't even realise. I was very confused. Bad play from me, but it's early wave, so it doesn't actually matter. And thankfully the demi died. So now I'm hitting the west doubles. Just wait for those to come in. And now just hitting my rotation again. Again, we're just keeping our HP high, making sure we're not using too much prayer. Helping the team out if there's a lot of, like right there was a lot of melees, so I was cleaning up a melee for Dwayne. We can pop the bigs early. Normally you pop that when 16 spawns, but it doesn't matter. Just hitting my rotation, as I say. Cleaning up, making sure we don't get too many Nilos in the room, but we kind of know we're fine. Obviously, it's a habit to clean smalls. I popped that 18 early, which is absolutely fine in these, because again, we can have as many smalls as we want in the room. Demi coming again. This one's just a double scythe angle, making sure we get all our switches in. It's quite important. Swapping back. And I have 2 blowpipes before my chin, so I'm just going to use them both on the Demi, and thankfully it kills it. It's very nice when the Demi goes range after that. Mage can be quite difficult, because obviously neither me nor Dwayne have any mage gear, so we don't hit very hard. And again, just hit my rotation. Unfortunately, I don't kill anything here, which kind of like gives a bad forewarning for the later waves, because we think that everything's going to be alive and whatever, but Dwayne actually manages to clutch up and one-hit a load of stuff, which is very, very helpful. So they're now not going to be relevant splits, thankfully. Relevant meaning that we'll have to kill them on like the cleanup after post-stem. So you'll see that everything's going to go dark around now after the next wave spawns. It means that everything that's dark we don't have to kill, and everything that's light we do. This plugin's a Niloa plugin is very, very helpful for speeds and very helpful for getting your first good waves. Here, just hitting my rotation again. Do that chin and then we get 1 scythe onto the boss. Just cleaning the light ones now, as I say. We don't need to kill any of the dimmed ones. Unfortunately, we stalled 28 3 times rather than twice. We kind of wanted to stall twice, because then we get a 309 boss spawn, but we stalled it 3 times, so this is going to be a 312, which is what we're playing for. 3-1x is very, very good. As you can see, we could have killed this, but it's hard to tell, especially when things are dimmed. So now, just making sure we get all our hits in, rank all back on. I can sit my prayer potion now. That's the vial I'm going to be using in Sotoseg. Just making sure we get everything on, making sure we don't kill the team is very important. Getting the ZCBs off. I think I tick fix here, because it was actually quite high HP. Normally you wouldn't tick fix after your first tick fix, but because the Nilo King was still high HP, I decided to tick fix, which is absolutely fine. Again, just making sure making sure we're sharing the Venges, making sure we're hitting the boss with the right gear on. Just trying our best not to lose ticks. Get the Chally there. Unfortunately, this damage isn't the best, but it's definitely not the worst by any means. And it actually ends up being a really, really, really strong Nilo. I think it was our 2nd fastest Nilo, which is great. And now onto Soat. This is where the P-necks come in useful, and you see my visual metronome. On tick 3, we run, and then because it's duo skips in hard mode, you'll see what we do in the different ones. It's not the same as regulars, where we just always do the Soat skipping. Unfortunately, because of the skips we're doing, we can't take Venges, which means that our phases are a little bit slower. We're overall looking for a 1-4x, so like anything that's 140 to 150 from this room. And yeah, just currently waiting for the maze to spawn. And the maze has spawned. So on tick 3, as I say, we're going to go. So we're going to step 1 tile forward, and then red X the other end. And then on tick 1, we're going to humid. Making sure we got spec on, making sure we got rancor on. Hit and call our specs. Thankfully we hit. And now we just wait for the next phase. Making sure we keep our health high. I should have heal other Dwayne here, which I didn't. I was too focused on like getting everything else right. Doesn't actually matter too much. We need to really lose 1 Venge from it. Just making sure we don't die. Watching the other side. And now we have different roles, and I'm one of the roles that has 3 necks. So instead of doing a half skip duo, I'm doing a full Soat skip. So it's humid on 1, spellbook swap on 1, whilst also equipping a P-neck to proc both because it grants you immunity. Because the maze can only max a 16, and obviously eating a shark it puts us at 20, and so when the maze inevitably hits us at 16, the P-neck procs and all the other damage is nulled. And again, I should have heal othered here, but I was too focused on other things. I also did an off-prayer hit here, which isn't great, but life goes on. It's a tough time. I'd rather just play my life and make sure I'm living than doing anything else. And unfortunately, we get a really terrible Soat. We're about 20 seconds slow out of Soat, but we made the time in Nilo, so we're just about on pace. We just need a good Zaurus now. Need some good Zaurus specs and we'll be absolutely fine. Here we are at Zaurus. So the God book in my inventory, the book of lore, it wasn't just a buckler. When I right click preach with that, as I explained in the other video, it takes 25% of my spec. And so when I hammer at the start of this Zaurus, I'm going to immediately go to 55% spec. You'll see it on my character. And that means that I'll regen a ZCB in time to do 110 damage, which is about post-screech when I regen it. All we have to hope is, because we only have 2 BGSs, that we hit 2 hammers and then the 3 BGSs that we have past there take it down to 0 defense, which is pretty consistently done, especially if you hit the first 2 hammers. Again, just doing exhumes, the usual process. The exhumes in trio hard mode are really fun actually, because they're a little bit challenging and they're also a lot faster. They're like normal 4s type speed. But anyway, making sure we spawn our thrall and making sure we're potted. Just going to do our rotation and we're just hoping to see that 0 defense. And unfortunately, Zaurus is 47 defense. So this run in the first 3 rooms was amazing. And now we've just lost potentially 30 seconds or so just from the SOT seg and the Zaurus alone, which is a pain, especially because we're doing SOT skips. But you know, it's an RNG game after all. But yeah, we're pretty bummed out at this point. Kind of even wonder if we're still on pace. Especially because a 40 defense Zaurus means that I'll probably miss my ZCB. Again, just making sure we're 5-ticking properly. Make sure we don't lose any ticks at all. Tick fixing to hit on the last available tick, and it actually isn't the worst screech in the world. Waiting for these 2 to hit, and then I'm just going to immediately ZCB. And thankfully we hit. So now we're back on pace actually, even despite the high defense. The only thing I now have to worry about is because these 2 are on the same tick and they've got a chally, it means that I'm going to have to move sides at a certain point. And they comet for me, so I think they call chally on the next hit. So I'm going to do one more scythe, yep, and here comes the chally. And you'll see that I swing afterwards, but because I know I'm going to be on the same tick, I don't want to get pitted out, so I go to the other side. And that's the Zaurus. Onto the Veric now. We have a set chart, so once again I use the God book to preach, and so you'll see the use for it here. So I do 1 spec, scythe, and I just immediately regen to 70, because the first spec uses 35, and I basically have 105 spec. So I double spec twice on the way in and hit massive, which is absolutely huge for trio, because a lot of the RNG is in this phase 1. Thankfully I remembered I didn't have enough invent space to pick up the staff in time, which is why I dropped that shark. Anyway, just keeping our HP high, making sure we don't fall below 70. We're just going to stay at the boss, and all the specs are used, so now we're just scything to the end. Unfortunately, I think we hit quite low scythes, so I'm assuming someone was quite heavily brewed down. But yeah, we get a half OK P1. We need a 450 for rec, by the way, and the average is about 440, 430. So we're very much pacing for rec, and we know it. Here, I'm doing the Boac tiles, but obviously I'm on my own, so I actually have no one to DD with. Just doing the Boac tiles, waiting for the spawn. And here we go. Gonna wait a tick here. Hit, go through here. And just like the 5s, I'm not the one that's death charging, so Dwayne's going to take the death charge. And then he calls out to me that he doesn't need another death charge, and I have death charge. So you'll see, because we know we're going to get a second set at a certain point because it's slow, that I'll be death charging to also gain some spec. Here you can see I'm flicking my prayer because we're using 2 restores each. This is just like to make sure that we're okay, because we take damage in P1, it means we have to sit restore sips early, which doesn't normally matter too much, but you just got to be careful sometimes because it can come down to the wire. So I'm prayer flicking out of making sure, not praying overheads because I don't need to until reds. Anyway, just doing my rotation, and we're almost definitely getting another spawn, which we know, and that's when Dwayne calls out to me that I can death charge, which is why I did it just a second ago. And here, I click my blowpipe, but I misclick by a tiny bit, so I start running towards it. I wasted probably a cycle here, which isn't great. but thankfully my blowpipe 1 tapped it. My clicks are all over the place. I'm kind of shaking after that, but back to normal. I know what tick I'm on, so I know my last available hit is going to be on tick 2. We call out that we won't need to claw. Horse wastes some time here, doing the Macarena with a crab. Last available tick on tick 2, which means I fix with the blowpipe. So we'll do blowpipe, scythe, and then scythe Veric. And I was just really hoping I have to use claws for this phase because we really want claws for P3, just on the off chance we can get a yellow skip, because a yellow skip would basically guarantee wreck, like perma. Even though it's not the best entry, it's a hard one to match, especially because there's so much variation in hard mode top trios. And the Veric goes down, absolutely fine. So now here, I'm going to swap. And now we're just making sure we do the right thing. I make the biggest blunder ever and I wasn't punished for it. So in the other videos, as you know, there's a DD Boak for tank. I end up doing like the normals tank. Horse also chance to melee. I think we were playing quite bad at this point. We've been playing for like 5 hours. But yeah, I go to do like the normals Boak. I then realise I F up and I do some weird stuff to try and like save it, because hard mode crabs pop in a different radius to normals. They're more punishing and they do more damage. So I just kind of freestyled and thankfully it worked out, making sure to get the Vengers off and calling out that we need Rancor on. Here we're just hoping for some decent damage. And it's really not looking hopeful. We really need to proc like the tornadoes and webs to really stand like a good chance. And we don't, which is really unfortunate. So here, just waiting. And I should have scythed to here, but I lose the tick. And I didn't realise I dropped the tick, which is a massive, massive shame, because I claw here, and I meant to claw and then scythe at the end, but because I dropped that tick, I actually didn't get my scythe, which means that I just burnt 4 ticks. But you know, everyone makes mistakes. It's hard to really know what you're doing in hard mode some of the time, because there's so much variation, no 2 raids are the same, which is why it's a hard thing to speedrun. So here, just waiting to set up Pog Tank, burning a couple ticks, not potted, which is bad play from me. But it was only 1 scythe unpotted. Get the Pog Tank set up, because that's more important than not wasting the ticks. I just got another claw back, so I'm going to claw and then into a scythe, but it dies before Mike can even scythe. And that is the record, and I'll leave you with the audio. Thank God, thank God.
Finally.
Finally got it. Jesus.
Alright.
We're us.
Jesus. I made mistakes that version as well, I was going to say it.
Actually,
How good.
not that poorly played, but I can't call P2. No bounce.
Oh, I get in the Hall of Fame. True say that a skeletal neek.
Check the board.
Okay.
Let's go! 1, 5, 4, 3!